we get to where we wanted to go, which is a global, permissionless, flexible, fast, scalable network of hosts, all configured to do an incredibly wide range of dApps coordinated from the XRP Ledger. We'll be able to do NFTs and tokenized assets, oracles, cross-chain interoperability, DeFi, gaming metaverses, self-sovereign identity, decentralized social media, AI and machine learning. All of these are things that machines can do, and with Evernode, you'll be able to do them in a decentralized fashion, coordinated from the XRP Ledger. And that's Evernode for any dApp, for anyone, forever.
And a sort of secret sauce that will allow liquidity providers to get more of the profits normally lost to arbitrage, and it will be bolstered by incentive programs. The value proposition of XRP is that it has these liquidity pools. Automated market makers on the XRP Ledger could be a game changer, uniquely positioning it to leapfrog other DEXs.
The XRP Ledger is poised to become an ecosystem of cooperatively interconnected XRPL protocol chains. Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh. And I got with me today a special guest from the XRPL developer community, Wojake. So welcome to the DeFi Standard.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, so today we're going to talk about Evernodes, which is a project building layer 2 smart contracts on the XRP Ledger. And this combines a Hotpocket protocol with the proposed Hooks Amendment. And this will allow for decentralized applications to run as mini blockchains on top of the XRP Ledger. So it's exciting. I think the community is very excited. I know the developers are, to finally get smart contracts. So Evernode's now in production for 2 years. What brought you and attracted you to Evernodes and the XRP Ledger?
So what attracted me to Evernode itself is that we could develop decentralized applications as its own blockchains. So each decentralized application has its own network, its own governance layer, its own code base, and so forth. That is powerful. And what that allows us is that we could develop and deploy applications into production in such a flexible and powerful way, as opposed to being restricted on a singular network, say Ethereum or the XRP Ledger itself. We could interact with multiple networks simultaneously, as an example.
So this shares some similarities to many in the community know Codius, but it is different in many ways. And this also allows for connection into the XRP Ledger's DEX and the layer 1, which I think is unique for a layer 1, for a layer 2 smart contract. So how does this compare to, say, side chains? I think the community would be interested in, and to maybe, Ethereum layer 2s.
All right. So a side chain is an application or a concept that allows two certain networks to connect to each other in a way that it allows its users to transfer funds from one network to another without needing to rely on a separate infrastructure, say a layer 0. And each Evernode application is its own blockchain.
So that's really powerful. So we could have an unlimited number of basically Evernode blockchains. Now, are the Hotpocket clusters what you mean when you say like their own individual blockchains? So a cluster could have different amounts of Evernodes?
So each Hotpocket cluster has one single blockchain. a single state,
Okay.
and it has a single code base that it relies upon. So one Hotpocket cluster equals to one decentralized application, basically.
Okay, so we could have multiple. So now, who are the different types of participants that make up the Evernode's ecosystem?
So Evernode consists of host operators, which provides infrastructure to Evernode. They provide the servers with RAM, with processors, with disk space to decentralized applications. And another participant is the developers. They produce Hotpocket applications and deploy them onto Evernode, which allows those applications to be of service to certain users, say as a layer 2 smart contract on the XRP Ledger or Ethereum. Or each Hotpocket cluster could essentially act as its own layer 1 blockchain. So users don't need to interact with a particular network like the XRP Ledger to essentially interact with the dApp itself. It could be its own blockchain with its own products, its own infrastructure, basically.
So now, would a user with an XRP Ledger account be able to interact directly with a dApp hosted in Evernodes on a Hot Pocket?
So if the Hotpocket cluster, the decentralized applications code itself, has coded a way for it to listen to the XRP Ledger and to interact with it, in a way that is possible. A developer could code in a feature where the Hotpocket dApp listens to the XRP Ledger, say to a certain account that it itself owns. It could interact with it. So say you're an XRP Ledger user, you have an account and you want to interact with a certain layer 2 smart contract powered by Evernode.
Mm-hmm.
You could go and interact with it via the XRP Ledger itself by emitting a transaction or sending a transaction to it with a memo attached. Or you could interact and request certain variables or certain information from the Hotpocket cluster itself via WebSocket. So you don't need to interact with it via the XRP Ledger, but you could connect to it via WebSocket or via the internet itself.
Okay, so will these applications be able to be interoperable with each other then in layer 2 as well?
Yes. So each Hotpocket cluster, each dApp could interact with one another to be of service to one another. Say, I'm a decentralized finance dApp, and I want to store a substantial amount of information on another network, on another Hotpocket dApp. That is possible. They could interact with one another without any restrictions, but they do need to be interoperable with each other in a way.
Mm-hmm. For a layer 1, for a layer 2 smart contract. So how does this compare to, say, side chains? I think the community would be interested in, and to maybe Ethereum layer 2s.
All right. So a sidechain is an application or a protocol, a concept that allows two certain networks to connect to each other in a way that it allows its users to transfer funds from one network to another without needing to rely on a separate infrastructure, say a layer 0. And each Evernode application is its own blockchain.
So that's really powerful. So we could have an unlimited number of basically Evernode blockchains. Now, are the Hot Pocket clusters what you mean when you say like their own individual blockchains? So a cluster could have different amounts of Evernodes?
So each Hotpocket cluster has one single blockchain, a single state, and it has a single code base that it relies upon. So one Hotpocket cluster equals to one decentralized application, basically.
Okay, so we could have multiple. So now, who are the different types of participants that make up the Evernode's ecosystem?
So Evernode consists of host operators, which provides infrastructure to Evernode. They provide the servers with RAM, with processors, with disk space to decentralized applications. And another participant is the developers. They produce Hotpocket applications and deploy them onto Evernode, which allows those applications to be of service to certain users, say as a layer 2 smart contract on the XRP Ledger or Ethereum. Or each Hotpocket cluster could essentially act as its own layer 1 blockchain. So users don't need to interact with a particular network like the XRP Ledger to essentially interact with the dApp itself. It could be its own blockchain with its own products, its own infrastructure, basically.
So this allows for that composability of different applications and then different tokens. So tokens like, say, the XRP Ledger can be utilized in these dApps on the Hot Pocket clusters in the application. Is that correct? And do the wallets, like, I know somebody's going to ask, is like, can I use my Zum wallet to connect to a dApp on a Hot Pocket cluster, for example? Or will the dApp interface do all that stuff?
So both could theoretically work. You could be a Zum user. You could send out a transaction to the dApp's XRP Ledger account with a memo attached, say for a certain request, or you want to exchange tokens in a way. Say the dApp itself is an automated market maker. That is possible. You could interact with it via Zum or via a certain interface provided to you by the dApp's developer team.
Very interesting. Like, I could see this is ideal for like a liquidity aggregator or a yield aggregating dApp that runs across, you know, multiple side chains and the XRP Ledger, because as we were talking about earlier, these Hot Pocket clusters can run on the mainnet XRP Ledger, on a EVM sidechain, on any other XRPL protocol sidechain. So it allows for kind of like this horizontal scalability in a way. And now what's unique about Evernodes in removing the limitations of just being locked into one smart contracting language? So where does this open up?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll answer the first one, the liquidity aggregator question. The powerful thing with Evernode is that each Evernode dApp could listen to multiple systems, say the XRP Ledger, Ethereum, Polygon. It could interact with it as well simultaneously without any limitations. So what that allows us is that we could provide a service which is available on multiple chains. It could take advantage of multiple features or multiple liquidity dApps on other networks per se. Since each Hotpocket cluster could listen to multiple networks, say you're an XRP Ledger user, you could interact with it, with the dApp via the XRP Ledger and take advantage of multiple other dApps, multiple other platforms, say Uniswap, say, what's a good one?
Compound.
Say Maker, perhaps.
Okay.
Compound, yeah.
Wow, that's really powerful that it's able to reach out like that. And we know that we're going into a multi-chain world. So as many of you know, there's a whole list of major amendments and enhancements that are coming to the XRP Ledger, including the XLS30D AMM, the XLS38D, which is the cross-chain bridges and witness servers. And then we have the Hooks Amendment, which is in V3 testing, and that works in coordination with Evernodes. Then recently proposed, we saw XLS40D with compliance. And, you know, David Schwartz even say that they're looking to make this, you know, an enterprise grade DeFi platform that's decentralized and able to scale horizontally. So, what are your thoughts, Wojake, on the expansion and enhancements to the XRP Ledger and its developer community, which has just exploded in the last 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the new features that are being proposed are incredibly powerful in a way because it allows us to take advantage of multiple new features. As a developer, I could, deploy a new set of products that users could use to benefit themselves. And what these new features say, the XLS30D, the MMM amendment, is that it allows us to take advantage of multiple liquidity faucets in a way. I see it that way because uh, the the current structure, the current design being used with the XRP Ledger stacks is that it's limiting as compared to an automated market maker. You don't need to enter in a price. You don't need to enter in a certain price compared to an MMM.
Absolutely.
That's just my opinion.
Oh, I'm super excited about the AMM. I think it is it's going to be hugely impactful for the community because now everybody who holds XRP is going to have the ability to have a monetary return at the network layer. So now we're in a trustless manner where most DEXs and AMMs are built at the smart contract layer. So this really leaves more capabilities now for dApps on Hot Pocket clusters in Evernodes to be able to run these aggregators, yield aggregator routers, and different smart vaults and all different types of cool things because this is built in at the network layer. Nobody has to, and it doesn't come under really the regulatory thing. It's just built in and it's part of the network design. And having that return on XRP, I think, is important because it creates storage demand and it drives TVL. And the XRP is one of the only assets besides Bitcoin in the really top 20 that doesn't have some type of native demand for storage and yield stream. So this is big for the community and to drive developers in.
Yeah, I really want to see this getting enabled on the XRP Ledger mainnet.
Yeah, hopefully soon. It looks like that, and then XLS38 with these side chains, and there's two types of side chains that we've seen so far. There's like XRPL protocol chains, which David Schwartz's vision at least is that they want to design some kind of WordPress like modular design where you could just have a checklist of different features that blockchain sidechain would be using for its purpose. And then we have things like the EVM sidechain, which isn't built on any XRP Ledger tech, but it uses XRP. And I think both of those are powerful in their own way. And it's really just expanding the ecosystem. So, it's just so much more than when I first got into, XRP 5 years ago. It's evolved so much as in how I look at it as a network and what its capability is going forward. So how do you think compliance fits in to the future going forward?
No, I'm not a lawyer or a law expert in any way, but I see it as a service. So with XLS38D, each bridge is its own bridging service. Since anyone could deploy a new network with a certain bridge connecting it to the mainnet, that creates a service, a financial service where the bridges maintainers, the entities that are in charge of maintaining the peg of their token, it creates a service again where you're not migrating, but you're transferring funds from one network to another. And what this creates is for the fact that since each bridge would essentially collect funds from a certain network to issuing the fund as representing as a token in a way, this doesn't this create a new financial system, a new financial service, in your opinion?
Yeah, because XRP now, it creates a model for revenue. I know for the witness services, because they're earning revenue from those moving across the bridge.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's different interoperability because XRP never leaves the main ledger. And just to reiterate again, that it's always able to be redeemed to the main XRP ledger. So the price of XRP is always going to be the same on the side chain as it is on the main chain. And, creating these different type of revenue models and business models, that's what drives ecosystems and composability with these dApps. So that blend of services and dApps together is going to be necessary in the future because, OFAC and sanctions things, those are going to be necessary going forward if we want enterprise money to come in. And with Hot Pocket clusters, I think that's great, is that you could have a variety of all different types of smart contracts. So you could have everything from Solidity, EVM, and so they can be as complex as a Hot Pocket, as complex as you want to as simple as you want in computation.
Yes. So I'll talk about Hotpocket here, and a comparison with the EVM is that
perfect.
Each Hotpocket application on its own can be, again, very simple or very complex, depending on the developer's design and intentions here. So it could listen to multiple networks simultaneously. It could listen to multiple servers or systems that are not, say, in any way possible relevant to crypto. That's possible as well. You could compute virtually anything that a software or a computer could compute. And what this allows us is that since we could compute anything without any time limitations or resource limitation, we could provide a service where our Hotpocket clusters are not limited to the XRP Ledger or crypto itself, because distributed systems, the technology powering all of crypto, basically, the XRP Ledger, Ethereum, Bitcoin, distributed systems is very diverse. It could provide a service that is varying to other sectors of the economy, say data scaling, data storage, computation. I think there are many initiatives out there that allows teams to compute incredibly complex computation in a decentralized network, a distributed system. And again, Hotpocket clusters could store anything in its own file system. So the blockchain of a Hotpocket cluster is simply a chain of the cluster's file system's state. So there aren't really multiple transactions in a Hotpocket cluster, but each block in a blockchain is a image of the file system's state in a way. And if you compare it to the EVM is very limiting, since say the Ethereum network is that it is facilitating computation and storage for many EVM smart contracts on the same network, on the same chain, with the same infrastructure. And that can be incredibly limiting. It could be expensive to compute and store variables, and it could be, again, limiting, since each EVM smart contract couldn't interact with any other off-chain systems without relying on another layer of infrastructure, say Chainlink or NuCypher. That's a new product that I've been looking into. And since EVM smart contracts are limited within their own network. That doesn't allow them to work with any variables or any information that may be valuable without relying on another layer of infrastructure, as compared to a Hotpocket cluster, which is reliant upon its own infrastructure, its own nodes, to facilitate data storage and data requests. So it could request it's virtually any information from any systems on-chain or off-chain.
Wow, that's a powerful value proposition. Would you mind explaining what Nomad smart contracts are?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Evernode's design and with each Hotpocket with each Hotpocket cluster's design, is that there are two different entities in a way. So there's the dApp infrastructure layer itself. So all the nodes providing consensus, storing information, and computing data, and coming to a consensus, I say. And that's the tenant, which is the developer or the entity maintaining the infrastructure, financing the infrastructure on an hourly basis. So what a Nomad smart contract is that the dApp itself controls its own financing. It controls and maintains its own infrastructure without relying on a third-party individual or an entity to finance its own infrastructure. And that allows the smart contract or the dApp, I'd like to say dApp, to not be relying on another individual. It could be a Nomad dApp. So it pays for its own infrastructure. It pays for all the nodes, and it ensures that the network keeps on living until it runs out of money.
And this is where the Ever token is used to pay for the services of leasing and hosting capabilities for these dApps. So that is issued on the XRP Ledger. And then there was something I found really fascinating, that you outlined a proposal for a decentralized key management, a Node.js framework for Hotpocket dApps to manage their XRP account signer keys in order to use the XRP Ledger in a decentralized manner, and management of a dApp's XRPL multi-sig account made easy. So this I found really fascinating. The fact that it allows for the signer key management on a dApp's XRPL account. So can you tell us more about what this means for the whole ecosystem?
Yeah, so DKM, or the Decentralized Key Management Framework, is a project that I've been working on, which is open source and free, basically. It's for dApps to utilize to interact with the XRP Ledger and be of service in a decentralized manner, as we're we're managing a multi-signature account. So what this means is that each Hotpocket cluster, again, it is flexible. A dApp does not have anything built in within it. What is provided is a consensus engine. So you could collect and distribute information, arbitrary data to all the nodes in your cluster, but it doesn't provide anything else. What needs to be built is an infrastructure layer in terms of code, where the dApp could maintain, again, its own infrastructure in Nomadic's characteristics, and it has to manage its own layer of collecting and distributing signatures to, provide a multi-sig transaction to a certain network, say the XRP Ledger or Ethereum per se. And what my project allows is that it allows a dApp, a Hotpocket cluster, to distribute signatures and collect those signatures, and if a certain quorum of signatures has been collected, it would pass it down to the XRP ledger. And it would be, again, a valid transaction since it meets all the requirements for the transaction to be appended to a new block or a new ledger.
And this is because the XRP ledger's transactions are fully ordered in sequence, right? And deterministic is compared to something like on Ethereum.
Yeah, so each transaction, even if it's a multi-sig transaction or a normal transaction, it has to have its own sequence. So each transaction, if you've ever played around with the XRP ledger, you've realized that the XRP ledger transactions require a certain field called sequence. That allows the XRP ledger to be, again, deterministic per se, I guess.
Okay, so wow, the amount of services that are able to be born out of this in a trustless manner, I think are impressive, from decentralized finance, privacy and security, Web3, infrastructure, and multi-chain. But privacy is one, I think, that's, becoming more of getting more attention within DeFi, within the crypto space, and with zero knowledge proofs just getting more advanced, is the decentralized key management framework, along with the Hot Pocket clusters, able to support zero knowledge proof dApps as well.
So Hotpocket clusters and
Hot Pocket
DKM,
clusters.
doesn't provide a ZKM feature in any way. So what DKM allows is that Hotpocket clusters could manage their own XRP Ledger account as a multi-sig account. And DKM is not meant to be used by users. It's meant to be used by developers to use on their own Hotpocket dApps on its own infrastructure. So it allows its Hotpocket cluster. So each Hotpocket cluster, again, has its own nodes. And these nodes could distribute and collect arbitrary data, numbers, files, strings of data, text. Since that is provided to us via Hotpocket's consensus engine, you need to build out a layer that allows it to collect and distribute, say, signatures. And that's what DKM allows you to do as a developer. It provides a standardized functions to dApps to collect and distribute signatures. It's simple if you compare how complex a Hotpocket cluster could be, but it's necessary for a Hotpocket cluster to be of service on the XRP ledger as a layer 2 smart contract in a way.
Okay.
It's extremely necessary.
Okay.
If it's insecure, if it's not reliable, that can be dangerous to the users and the dApp itself.
Okay, so it supports the XRPL protocol networks only, and additional support for other chains or cryptography may be met if there is demand. So this is a supporting infrastructure. As we know, these networks and distributed systems are very modular, and they have different components that strengthen them and then make them more secure. And this is one piece that Wojciech saw that was necessary to be implemented to support a robust ecosystem of dApps that could interact then from Hot Pocket clusters to the XRP ledger. So that's important going forward. So
it really is.
What would be your vision for the Evernodes, like, as it gets built out and has these supporting features like the decentralized key management and maybe some others? Where do you see Evernodes going and some of the use cases that it could inspire?
So Evernote has multiple participants, the host operators, the developers, and the underlying users that rely on Evernote to provide a certain service. And this allows for multiple opportunities, and I mean multiple, for individuals to take part in it and contribute in a way and participate. And what I see is that Evernote could provide a new approach to decentralized applications as compared to EVM smart contracts. EVM smart contracts are incredibly limiting in what they could compute in the runtime and in the gas fees. Those are extremely expensive as compared to a Hotpocket dApp. It's not limiting. It could interact with any system, it could store anything, it could compute anything, virtually speaking. And what I see is that we could provide an infrastructure for dApps to be maintained in a truly decentralized and flexible manner. So for host operators, I see a vision for a professional cloud computing platform. I see, say, enterprises to come in, something like IBM, Google Cloud, or AWS to come in to Evernote and provide their own services, their own hosts. That is incredibly powerful. That is possible. But again, that is a long-term vision for me. We need to build out all the infrastructure needed to bootstrap Evernote and hooks off the ground. While this can be incredibly complex, it could be extremely valuable to the XRP Ledger and maybe perhaps the entirety of crypto. Again, since Evernote is not limiting to any blockchain, to any network, or to any system, it could be of service to any network, virtually speaking. And since I see a vision where Evernote may be of similar size to, say, something like Ethereum, I see a vision for us to build together without anything really binding us together, financially speaking, early on. Because for anything to go off the ground, to be bootstrapped, there needs to be a way for us to come together without any financial incentives to build. Similar to Bitcoin, similar to, say, the XRP Ledger, all of this were developed. It was maintained early on without any financial goals.
No, this is pretty powerful on the agnosticness of the design and the flexibility and the idea of the cloud computing. I noticed that Scott Chamberlain mentioned in one of his videos this idea of the nodes acting as like a good virus where they could recover their health and actually repair themselves. Could you go into more detail, if possible, on what he meant by that compared to some of the traditional hosting platforms now, like an automated?
Yeah. So what I think what he meant on saying is that since again a dApp could acquire a new set of nodes to be a part of its own infrastructure, it could act similar to a virus. It spreads and it could spread fast, incredibly fast. So that is similar to Evernote, but not in any malicious way
No, in a
possible.
good way.
In a good way. So a dApp could expand its own infrastructure in terms of its size, in terms of its resources. It could expand by acquiring a new set of nodes. Again, similar to a virus, spreading its own self, spreading its own file system, spreading its resources, and expanding its consensus layer.
Yeah, and this does have some similarities to Codius, just so everyone knows. It has that sandboxed isolation with the execution environment, and it's smart contract running on the same host. So that was always like a vision of, the early days of Ripple that really never got off the ground in an open source way. And, this is taking parts of that vision and making it a reality, because it's something that was missing for so long. And now this opens up a whole nother dimension, separate from, side chains, separate from, AMMs on the ledger. This is now, we're going into cloud computing, distributed file storage, compute, and multi-party computation. I'm sure you could even do through these things as well.
Yeah, that is possible.
Right, and that's opens up some powerful applications. And like I said, the yield aggregators moving across different networks. So we could see. So can the community, if they were interested in running Hot Pocket nodes or clusters, is that feasible on a regular laptop?
Yes. So with Hotpocket, with how Hotpocket is structured, and with how Evernode hosts are structured, that is possible, because you need right now you don't need much resources on your machine or your computer to be a part of Evernode. You could say, let's say you have an old computer, an old laptop that you don't use. You could log in and you could install the Evernode host software, and you could be part of the beta test. You could provide your own resources to Evernode and start testing and developing on Evernode. Right, but right now, what I want to see from the community is that they look more into Evernode, because again, as a developer and as a contributor to the XRP Ledger and Evernode, I see a huge potential, and I mean huge potential, for everyone to be a part of this and to garner the opportunities that come from it, the technicalities of it. Again, I'm not trying to say this for any incentives in a way, because I'm not a part of any dev team. I say this because of how powerful Hotpocket dApps could be and how extremely valuable they could be developed, I guess.
Yeah, and one thing I saw that was these governance games to get that initial governance structure of the hosts initialized. So there's no central entity that's operating these hosts. They're all independent, decentralized, and the registry, I believe, was done through NFTs. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, and
that is correct.
NFTs are included.
So that was a very interesting use case for the XRPL NFTs there. And this is, going to, be one of the first, large scale projects that combines with hooks, which is going to be another addition in a different way at layer one. Really, that's going to deal with like your underlying accounts on the XRP Ledger and have impacts on the user. So all these different components coming together. I think a lot of people were familiar with hooks. They're familiar with the AMM, and they're familiar with sidechains, but Evernodes is something that's, I think, as powerful, or it's more complex. There's no doubt about that. And, I know some people will probably listen to this and they'll be like, that sounds very complicated. But this is where the complex dApps are going to be built. And what does that mean? Ultimately, it means a more abstract user experience, which means more users, if all of that can be abstracted in the background and do more complex things. So then the users just have to be able to interact with the interface and not have to deal with doing that stuff on their own. And do you see different wallets being able to connect to all these dApps, like MetaMask and everything? Do you see any points of friction?
Well, I don't see MetaMask being used with Hotpocket dApps, because MetaMask is developed and produced for Ethereum-based networks. But I could see a certain wallet being developed and being used that is entirely for Hotpocket dApps.
Okay.
It's for interoperability between dApps. I can see that being developed, but again, we're so new to developing Hotpocket and Evernode. There needs to be other infrastructure being built out before that is possible. But I see that as well in my vision. I see that being developed and being used. That can be powerful.
Yeah, it definitely can be. So this it's on the website. I'll post everything in the description below for Evernode's website. Follow them on Twitter, and they're going to be launching as soon as the Hooks amendment goes live, hopefully this year. And we know that
it'll be live this year.
It'll be live this year. And Apex Summit, which is the big developer summit this year, is in September in the Netherlands. It's where XRPL Labs is based. So this is built. So just to recap here, the Hot Pocket clusters and Evernodes is built completely independent from Ripple. It has nothing to do with Ripple. This is built by an independent developer team, and Wojciech here is independent himself. So he's just working on the XRP Ledger to helping support infrastructure. And the more infrastructure that we could support, the more developers that we could bring on. It's the network effects. You create this ecosystem, and awareness is the most important thing. People need to be aware, and we're having the right narrative within our community is important. If we want to attract developers and you want to create an ecosystem that's going to grow and have network effects and bring on more use cases and more dApps and more developers, then the community itself has to be able to level up and be knowledgeable, or at least make an effort to be aware of what's coming. And you might not understand it at first, but you'll learn, just like everything else. We're moving beyond just, riding the coattails of Ripple and cross-border payments. You are part of a community, and this is a open source, public, decentralized, distributed, permissionless network. And the asset is part of the protocol and the network. And we're a community, and these are community-driven networks. So it was great to have Wojciech on, and hopefully we could do this again as we get closer to launch. And if anyone is interested in running nodes, who should they reach out to, Jake?
Yes. So if you want to be a part of the community, if you want to get involved, you could certainly join the Evernode community Discord server, or outright simply asking on Twitter and pinging a few participants that are public.
Okay.
Because everyone is willing to help you, because we want to see Evernode launching. Everyone is, from XRP Ledger infrastructure operators, from entrepreneurs, from developers themselves on the XRP Ledger, because we truly see value in Evernode, and we want to see everyone supporting it. And everyone is supporting it, internally speaking.
And is there support from like the XRPL Labs team and with Hooks? That I'm sure there has to be some type of coordination there and cooperation with Hooks and the timing. So that's great. I mean, this is for retail. This is for everybody, and we need to bring more people in and have more people involved. So I'll be posting the Discord link in the description below, and I'll post all the information you need. And is there anything else, Jake, that you would like to say before we wrap it up?
No, nothing much for now. I think this is an awesome video on your end. This is an incredibly insightful video on Evernode. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for reaching out, and I am looking forward to doing this again. And hopefully, the audience and viewers got some value out of this, and you learned something, because it's a continuous learning process, and it never stops, because we are at the frontier of building a new financial system. I'm Mickey B. Fresh, and I'm out. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
The combination of hooks plus the decentralized exchange means we get a completely decentralized Evernode network. We've got a process then for incentivizing hosts to exist by issuing Evers from the hooks. We've got a process for policing the hosts by the randomized auditing. We have a way to facilitate the hosting market by exchanging Evers for hosting tokens on the DEX. And we've got a process for managing the redemption of the hosting tokens for hosting services. Importantly, what happens there is that the tokens get sent by the user to the hook, and the hook waits until the host spins up an empty instance for the dApp to run in before redeeming the token with the host. And all of this happens without, the hook is the middleman. The hook is the automated middleman in this process, and that the code is public and it's open source in that sense.